Hello, internet.
What's up everyone, JayzTwoCents here, and you guys remember that video I teased where we talked about how hard is it to run a QHD panel, ultra-wide panel? Well, this is it right here. We're gonna finally talk about this panel, talk about specs, talk about color accuracy, and of course, gaming performance, because we've reached an interesting time when it comes to panels. They're becoming affordable, or definitely a lot more affordable than they were a couple of years ago. Back in the day, you could spend $1,200 on a panel like this, but not today, and we're gonna talk about it. Corsair's new light loop RGB fans feature 16 independent RGB LEDs across 2 separate light loops, allowing users to create unique and custom lighting effects. Perfect for both air cooling as well as radiators, the Corsair light loop RGB fans are an excellent choice for that ultra custom look. Learn more by clicking the link below. So this panel is the vast 35-inch WQHD ultra-wide panel being offered by Massdrop. You guys can find a link down in the description below. Massdrop has sponsored this video, so a huge shout out to them for sending this our way to kind of take a look at. But what makes this one a little bit unique is the fact that it is a VA panel. Now VA is interesting because it's not a TN and it's not an IPS, but they advertise that it's kind of giving you the best of both worlds. With a TN panel, you tend to get very fast response times, very fast refresh speeds. So you could get high refresh rate, which is how fast the picture is able to refresh itself on screen, and the response time is how long it takes the pixel to go from gray to white to gray again. Now the specs on this are fantastic. In fact, on the surface, you'd probably think it was a TN panel just based on the specs, because it's a 100 Hertz refresh rate FreeSync panel, so AMD GPU owners rejoice. You can get your FreeSync technology with this panel, and it is a 2 millisecond gray to gray. So that is extremely fast. Typically, IPS panels were not good for gaming because of the fact that they were slower, but they had really good color correction and color accuracy. The problem is for gaming, that meant a little bit less vibrant colors, but much more accurate. So the colors didn't pop as much. There was a little bit of ghosting on the screen. And so over time, IPS panels have improved as well. But the problem is, as IPS panels got better, the price of them stayed pretty high, because now you were having a gaming performance IPS panel, which is why the other ultra-wides that were on the market were IPS and over $1,000. In fact, you could easily spend $1,000 today. So what makes this panel already exciting is the fact that this is $599 on Massdrop right now. So this is about half the price that these debuted at. Now VA is known for giving you a much deeper black level and a much better contrast, where IPS tends to usually be a little bit less contrasty but more true to life. That has to do with the color accuracy of IPS. But this has a 178 degree off viewing axis. I always say axis, whatever. You get what I'm trying to say, hopefully. But it's a 178 degree viewing angle, which means you can look at it from the sides and not get huge color shift, which is a downside to TN panels. So you can already see that we've got the color accuracy of 100% RGB, or Adobe RGB color gamut, and we've got a 178 degree viewing angle with a 2 millisecond gray to gray and 100 megahertz refresh rate. So that right there spells an ultra smooth, stutter-free gaming experience without ghosting on the screen. There's nothing more distracting than ghosting when it comes to a gaming panel. Basically, that means as you move your image, the pixels cannot change color or brightness as they're redrawing the image fast enough, and so you get the image kind of looking like it's separating or ghosty, kind of like a dream sequence in a movie. It's very distracting. There's nothing gamer about it. Now, in terms of build quality, this is probably one of the most solid panels I've ever felt. It is a full aluminum bezel. So unlike plastic bezels where typically they'll creak and bend, this is metal. This is solid. I mean, who would do this with a monitor? I just did. It's metal. It's designed to be beat on, and let's face it, I don't think you should beat on your panel, but I've got kids, so things are bound to hit it at some point. So the full metal construction on this definitely makes it feel robust. The base is very non-intrusive. I think it's stylistic. It's not the typical gamer panel you'd see with RGB everywhere and flashy logos and red bezels or orange bezels or whatever. It's just a very, my fingers really hurt right now from hitting that. That hurt a lot, if that tells you anything. But this is a desk or a monitor that you could put on your desk in your office or in your man cave, your nerd cave or whatever. Game on it, looks professional, it's not gaudy, and you could build a whole style around it. Now the contrast ratio, the true contrast, I'm doing quotes again, the true contrast ratio is 2500 to 1. You see these extremely out there numbers, like it's 5 million to 1. I mean, that's not a true, you can't have 5 million to 1 contrast ratio on something that is backlit. There is a light turned on back there. So the real contrast ratio on this is 2500 to 1, which is great. Now let's talk about picture quality though. I did notice that there is a little bit of blotchiness to the screen, especially when it comes to gray. Gray is one of those things that's kind of hard for a panel to give you a perfect uniformed color. Black usually has to do with light bleed. So when black is being displayed, like if we just have a black screen here, then what you'll notice is whether or not there's light bleed in the corners. Because remember, most of these panels that are LED, LCD are edge lit, where there's a light that goes around the edge of the panel shining across it, and it's reflecting, and that's how you're getting your backlight. But when it goes black, the gates close on the LCD, and then what happens is you just get the light being blocked. So you would sometimes see bleed in the corners. This panel is actually pretty good. I'm not noticing any light bleed in the dark scenes. We did notice gray though tends to have some blotchiness, but it's only noticeable if you're looking at scenes that are really dark or they're very solid uniform color like dark gray, medium gray, black, whatever. So that's gonna be something you'll notice more if you're watching movies and stuff, less if you're playing games. Games, things are happening so fast and stuff, it's not that noticeable. But if you're watching movies like, let's say The Dark Knight or something like that, where they're always dark scenes because they're very cinematic and dramatic, then you might notice that a little bit. But what we notice is with this panel that's a little bit different than the norm. Normally you see light bleed where it's light around the edges. This monitor has a little bit of a vignetting, almost where the edges look like they have a dark fade to them. So they almost like they fade to black on the edges ever so slightly. Now we've used this panel to edit the last couple of videos. The color accuracy on it seems pretty good. So when we bring up the vectroscopes and we look at color, we notice it doesn't seem to be too out of whack. But you wanna be careful though with VA though, with it being a little bit more contrasty and a little bit more punchy with color, because you could find yourself undersaturating a little bit because the panel has a little bit of natural oversaturation versus like a straight up IPS panel. So that's something worth keeping in mind. So it has some pretty sweet built-in picture profiles for things like movies, games, FPS. What's cool about the FPS is it actually reduces the contrast and brings up the darks. That way you're not that guy that got killed by the guy in the shadow that was right in front of you because you didn't see him. AKA me, anytime I play any game, especially Insurgency. I die a lot from shadows. But the FPS mode will reduce the contrast and bring up the low lights. That way you can easily see things in shadows. It's got built-in crosshairs, so if you want to, I guess technically cheat, if you want to 360 no scope, bro, then you can just bring up the crosshairs on the screen. It's got audio pass-through, so it'll pick up audio through the DisplayPort or HDMI, and you can plug in your headphones directly to the monitor. It has one HDMI 2.0, two HDMI 1.4s, and a DisplayPort. So you can have multiple things hooked up to this, your consoles, whatever else, multiple sources, DVD players. And of course, if it's something that's not 21:9 aspect ratio, then it will just black bar on the side. One thing that's kind of nice about this panel though, and given the fact that it has so much screen real estate, is it does have PIP or picture-in-picture. So you can have one of those other HDMI sources displaying on the screen at the same time. So if you had another streaming PC or something like that, you could actually have a small window in the corner showing that PC and kind of keep tabs on that without having to have a separate screen. Obviously picture-in-picture has multiple uses on that, but that's kind of nice to see on something like this. So I feel like the value that you're getting for this panel for $599 is hard to compete with. So you're getting the speed and the color of VA. So you're kind of getting the speed of TN and the IPS color accuracy kind of melded into one, the VA panel. You're getting this super solid construction, adjustable base. So of course it can rotate. You can adjust the height. You can rotate this, if you want to use this as some sort of like a development machine, so you can rotate it, portrait, and keep an eye on your chat and stuff if you're a streamer or something like that. And of course, it's got a very solid base on here. And it has tabs on the back that you can route your wires through. So there's a ton of well thought out features on this panel. I do have one complaint though, because nothing ever seems to be totally perfect. And this is something that I can personally overlook because the height of the panel doesn't really bother me. Our particular unit though is not maintaining its height. There's a spring in there that's supposed to be a kind of a counterlever or a counterbalance to hold it in whatever position you put it in. Ours unfortunately will not stay. Well, it stays at the very top. The problem is it will, and I don't want to slam it down, but it will, see, it won't stay. So it'll either stay at the very top or the very bottom, but it won't stay. You guys get what I'm trying to say though, right? I mean, it probably needs a little more tension on that spring, but I couldn't find anywhere there where we were supposed to adjust that. But that's the only negative I have to this. I mean, you get FreeSync, 100 Hertz, 2 millisecond response time, color accuracy of VA, and the response time of a TN panel. You even get on-screen display, OSD, fake crosshairs, all kinds of stuff. I don't know. You guys tell me. I think this is a panel that is definitely worth taking a look at. So the link is in the description below. Check it out. We'll be using it. In fact, people in the studio have already been calling dibs on it. Phil's the first one I got to use it for content creation. Nick's already shopping for one now. He wants one. It's too bad. I'm probably taking it home, guys. All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought about this panel. If there's any other panels we should check out, make sure you put it in the comments below. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.